If you have a collection of documents, notes, or research papers, you need a knowledge base to extract interesting insights from them. However, most knowledge bases, even those powered by AI, have a problem because they can extract the ideas that are already inside, but they cannot help you come up with ideas that are not yet in there. And this is where knowledge graphs can be very useful, because you can create a semantic layer on top of your existing knowledge base in the shape of a knowledge graph that is made by InfraNodus, for instance, in this case, which can visualize the main topics in any folder or in the whole repository, show you what the main concepts are, and most importantly, identify the clusters of ideas that are not very well connected, like the ones you see highlighted on this graph. They're smaller and less represented. And if you point your attention or steer your LLM's attention on those clusters, you will be able to generate genuinely interesting insights, because you will connect the ideas that are relevant. They're already inside these folders, these repositories, but they connect them in new ways. So you will come up with something new, but relevant at the same time. And on top of that, you can also use the graph to identify the gaps, so the clusters of ideas that are not very well connected yet, and then point your AI to these gaps to have it generate insights that bridge them in new and interesting ways. And this is how you will be able to come up with new ideas. So instead of doing retrieval, how most of the AI knowledge bases or second brains propose, you can generate genuinely new ideas here using this approach. You can retrieve ideas using it, because as you can see, it has an overview as a graph, and you can also generate new ones. And the best thing about it is that it's also available through the MCP server. So you have this graph here visualized using the plugin, the extension, whether you use Obsidian or Cursor AI. InfraNodus Graphview is available in both. And then you can also use the InfraNodus MCP server. So you connect the MCP server, and then you can ask any questions here in Claude in the terminal window. And then using the MCP server, it will actually extract relevant content from this graph. It will traverse this graph, identify the main concepts that relate to the questions you ask, but also what else it's connected to. You see it kind of has like long pathways that it can extract, and then it will add it to the context of the response. So the response will be much more precise and much more interesting, because it will be connecting a more diverse set of ideas. So this is how it works in a nutshell. Let me show you how I use it first, and then I will show you how you can set something like this up yourself. So here I have actually an example of my own repository from Obsidian, but I open it in Cursor AI. You can also open it in Obsidian. We also have the InfraNodus Graphview extension that you see on the right here for Obsidian as well. But I like to use Cursor just because it has better AI integration. So I open my vault of files in Cursor, and here I have a collection of files, and I have them separated by different projects. So here I have a whole folder on projects here. And the only thing that I need to do is to launch Claude in my terminal window here in Cursor AI. If you have Obsidian, you just install terminal extension and you can use Claude inside. And then I type in InfraNodus. This is the skill I have installed. I will provide a link in the description to this video that will show you how to install the skills and how to set something this up yourself. Then I click enter. Then Claude will automatically connect to this skill, and it will identify that the skill has a description of what you can do with this repo, and then propose you a few questions that will ask you what you want to do next. Here I actually chose graph a specific folder. I will not do it again because I already did that. And then when you ask it to graph a specific folder, it's going to ask you which folder you want to graph. And then you will tell, okay, I want to graph projects folder. Now I'm not going to do it because this already happened before. And so when you launch projects folder graph, then what it will do, it will launch that skill and create a huge graph that will relate just to this folder. In fact, I can also do that if I right click on this graph and then click visualize as a graph. You will see it will load a new version of this visualization here. And this big graph is going to show me all the different topics that I have in this projects folder. So under the hood, when we use the MCP server, this is exactly what this graph is doing. It's providing you with this representation, all right? And then once it has this representation, then it becomes available both to you and to LLM. So you yourself can have this observability where you can see the main topics. So for example, I get a very quick overview that in my projects folder, I'm talking a lot about knowledge graphs here and data themes and, for example, movement freedom at the same time and fractal networks. So all these diverse sets of topics, right? And then my LLM will also know that. So next time when I ask it a question, for instance, I will say, what are the gaps in the projects folder, right? Look what will happen here. When I type in this question, Because the InfraNodus skill is connected and the MCP server is connected, and because Claude skills created this report from InfraNodus that is available here, and also the manifest file that provides the links to the graphs that were built from this particular folder, you see it's going to launch generate content gap based on this graph. So it already knows which graph it should use because it have it saved. So we have the graph representation of this project inside my InfraNodus. This is here, InfraNodus, RepoSec and BrainDocs project. So it has this representation, it queries this graph, and then it provides me some gaps that are not yet explored in this particular folder. So this is really good because when you have a variety of projects like me, this can help you see how you can connect them together. And sometimes it comes up with really interesting insights. So it proposes this connection here between data analysis and human experience. It's telling me, okay, you're working on thematic analysis and qualitative research methodology through InfraNodus, but you're not really connecting it to your work with the body. Because I have another project where I work with physical practice. But for instance, it's true that I didn't ever conduct a survey of the experiences that people have when they practice. So it could be very interesting because I could feed these experiences that people have back into InfraNodus and create an analysis from it and have this kind of survey analysis using the graph using InfraNodus. So it's a really good idea, almost directly something that I can implement. And as you can see, it's really good because you don't only get the ideas that help you connect your projects together, but if you're working on a specific project, for instance, or a product, it will help you come up with product ideas depending on the nodes that you have. So it's really practical and it works really quickly and very direct. And if you like something, you can always save it into your nodes. So for example, I will select here and I will say, okay, save to my incoming from AI folder this idea, and also gap 3 because I also like this one. So I put it in here, and then I have a special folder here for all the ideas that come from AI. And once I generate them, then it just saves them into this folder. And then I have a practice where I regularly review this folder in order to see which ideas I want to work on. So this is a whole workflow. You have the knowledge base, then you have the semantic layer in the shape of a knowledge graph or LLM wiki, for instance. And then you generate some ideas using this graph, and then you feed these ideas back to your incoming folder. And then when you want to work on them, you open the folder, you review these different ideas yourself, and then you see what you want to work on, what will have the best possible results, and then you will save them there and reiterate. So it's pretty good, works really well. You see it created a new file now, thematic analysis of life, and then with this idea proposition here. So it's really good. I have a new idea. As you can see, it's green because I have version control. This is also something I recommend you to install, to use Git, so that you can track versions and save every iteration, especially when you work with AI, so that you can revert back. And then it works really well like that. So now that I showed you how it works and what kind of results it can produce, let me show you how to set it all up. So in order to do that, you go to InfraNodus, and basically the first thing that you need to do is to set up your MCP server. And MCP server can be set up if you click to API MCP and you create a new API key, have a lot here, and then it provides you information about how you can set up the MCP server here. So basically, if you use Claude, for instance, you can simply connect it through settings connectors in your Claude or by editing the config file. So you have the MCP server installed through connectors. Then you need to go to product skills here, and then you choose the InfraNodus skill, and then you can download this InfraNodus skill to your computer, or also view the skill on GitHub. And once you download that skill, it will also be available to your Claude here. So when you launch Claude Code, for instance, it will be available here if you type in InfraNodus, and then it will be able to guide you through all the different steps that you need to perform in order to get this repository represented as a knowledge graph. And so you have the repository itself, the MCP server, the skill. You connect them together, and then you just start working by typing in /InfraNodus, and then it will guide you through all the different actions it can perform. So pretty easy to set up. You don't need to install Python or anything like that, like you would need with Graphify, for instance. And the best thing about it is that you also have this visual assistant that you can install through extensions. If you just type in InfraNodus here, then you can install the InfraNodus extension from the marketplace of Cursor. If you use Obsidian, you can also install it from the plugins. And then you have this visual representation. And it's really great because once you have a visual representation, you can also point to the graph. For example, look at the gaps, reiterate through them using this button. And if you see the gap you like, then you click generate, and then it's going to generate an interesting question here in the prompt. So it has a prompt, and you can copy this prompt, a question and send it back. How can InfraNodus-based thematic analysis of user API data reveal whether conversation calls and habitual memory patterns shape users' felt freedom as a function of multiple interpretive approaches? So, very philosophical question. Sometimes they will sound a bit too complex, but this is because they connect the topics that are not very well connected yet, and this is great because then it will make you think of the problems you're facing in a completely new way. And if you feed it back to AI, you are controlling every step of the process. First, generating a question, then generating ideas from this repository. You see it's using the MCP server to generate responses from this graph itself based on this question that you asked. So it's really interesting because you're kind of steering your LLM's reasoning by selecting the specific topics it should focus on, and it has this graph as its base layer to generate responses from, and also the whole content of this repository. And if you have a LLM wiki on top, for instance, then it will also use this LLM wiki structure, on which I have another video that I will link to above here, where you can learn about how to set up the LLM wiki and how to use InfraNodus with that. So this is kind of like the workflow in a nutshell. As you can see, it's thinking a lot here. It extracted the whole graph, the gaps, the suggestions, some interesting responses using InfraNodus. Then it combines it with the context of this repository, and then finally it will come up with an answer to this question that will also help me bridge this gap and connect these ideas in a new and interesting way. So I hope you like this workflow. Try it out. We have a whole section on how the skills work. If you go to product and then knowledge base, AI knowledge base, I will also leave a link to this page in the description to the video, where you can follow the whole setup step by step in detail, personal knowledge base, then how to set up AI second brain, LLM wiki, reasoning graph, and so on, and then also the comparison of LLM wikis to knowledge graphs in case you want to see what the differences are between them. And let me know how it works for you. If you have any questions about it, if you would like me to zoom in onto a specific aspect of this workflow, I'll be happy to make another video on these topics. And thank you very much for your attention.